Hey there, welcome to podcast episode number 22. Today I'll be doing a deep dive into my latest finished object, which is my Moby Sweater, and just chatting about things, knitting projects that have been bringing me some joy. Hey there, welcome back to my channel, String Things by Mel. My name is Melissa. I'm a stay-at-home mom living in Vancouver, Canada. And on my channel, I like to chat and share everything about my knitting hobby. Oh, it feels good to be back. Not a very long break, but it has been about 2 weeks since I last picked up the camera. I did have a video released early December, but that one was something I pre-recorded at the end of November. So I really haven't done any sort of content creation since my last videos. And the reason why I went on the break, well, in case you didn't catch my last podcast episode, I said I needed to take a little break from YouTube. And it wasn't that YouTube was causing me any sort of stress. I actually really enjoy creating content and chatting about knitting. But I was just going through a bit of a challenging time with Darcy. And that's not to say that she's a bad kid and everything's all good. She's 3, she's a toddler. There are some growing pains, there's some tantrums, some behavioral things that if you're a parent, then you know, and that was just zapping me of a lot of my energy, along with not sleeping very well, not eating very well, my hormones or whatever was going on in my cycle in November. It was just universe, maybe just like packing on everything to me, just to be like, hey, can you stop for a moment? So I just really didn't have enough mental bandwidth to sit down and record, because when I did try to turn on the camera, it was just very frustrating and I would get angry with myself, and that would kind of like come out in my recordings. So 2 weeks was enough for me to kind of analyze and kind of recognize and see what a difference it is just to kind of offload, a little something off my plate and focus on getting better myself and working on helping Darcy navigate through these kind of developmental challenges, I guess we can say. There's probably a term for it, but growing pains a bit. But yeah, I'm happy to be sitting here and having a chance to sit down and chat about knitting finally. So it's been 2 weeks, but been a very productive 2 weeks knitting wise. So let's go ahead and get started with what I am wearing, which is my latest finished object, and that is the Moby Sweater from PetiteKnit. Here, I'll get my hair out of the way. So the Moby Sweater is a pattern from PetiteKnit. As I said, there is a men's version, a children's version, a baby version, and the women's version. I don't know if there's some sort of bundle discount if you want to purchase all 4 of them. That would be a good idea though. But this was essentially kind of my second go at this pattern, because my last year's Christmas project was knitting at one for Darcy, and I believe I knit her a size 2 to 3 years. So that one and the one that I knit at, which is the smallest size, I don't know if anything changes between the sizes, like other sizes. But for me, all the stitch counts for all like the cables and the motifs, the textures that are going on in here were all the same. So I didn't have to unlearn anything from past experience of Darcy's Moby. And I didn't have to learn anything new. It was essentially just knit an adult version of the child's Moby Sweater, which was great. But yeah, a little bit more about the Moby Sweater pattern. It is available in 9 sizes, extra small to 5XL, and recommended ease is 15 to 20 centimeters or 6 to 8 inches. So the finished bust circumference for this sweater is 102 centimeters to 166 centimeters. In inches, that's 40 and a quarter to 65 and a quarter. And after taking into account the recommended positive ease, it is falls a bit short of being size inclusive. Size inclusive meaning made for busts of 30 inches to 60 inches or 78 centimeters to 152 centimeters. I'm not totally positive about the 78 centimeters, but you can Google what is 30 inches in centimeters. I don't know why I can't think of that right now. So I made the smallest size, but even though my gauge swatch was correct or very close to the pattern gauge, my sweater didn't come out to the bust circumference that it was supposed to for this size. So it's supposed to be 40 and a quarter for, whoa, what did I write there? Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked looking at my notes. It's supposed to be 40 and a quarter inches or 102 centimeters. And mine, like not stretched, just kind of like laying gently on a table, is about 94 centimeters. So it's 8 centimeters smaller than what the pattern says it should be. So I think my live knitting, when I was actually knitting the sweater, was tighter. Perhaps I could go and block out some more of the texture, but it fits me, and I don't mind how it fits. Like I have room still, like plenty, enough room. I think it's a nice fit, kind of leaning more on the kind of relaxed fit. Maybe I like to use like tailored fit when I say things like a little bit closer body skimming, but not neutral ease, not negative ease. And what else was I going to say? Oh, if you follow me on Instagram, I did kind of share in my stories that I was going back and reblocking just the cables because I felt like they could be opened up more. And even after doing that, I didn't really gain very much in circumference. So it did make a huge difference circumference-wise. But I think visually, like my cables look a little nicer. They're a little more open. If you didn't know, that was something you probably wouldn't even notice, but I can notice, so and that's what matters. Yeah, I might go back, and I'd like to go back and reblock the sleeves, like the sleeve opening there. And then I'm not sure if I should go back and try to open up the moss stitch some more, but really, like, I'm quite happy with the fit on me. The length came out, it's a maybe short, but after wearing it now, I think I really do like the length. So I wear it not tucked in, and even standing up, you can't see that. Maybe I'll insert some B-roll for you guys for that. But the way that it sits, it does cover the waistband of my jeans. I almost exclusively wear high-waisted bottoms, and I think it hits me, it's like right where my hip bones are. So it's stopping before the widest part of my body, which would be like the side, like just above my hips kind of area. Sorry, not just above my hips, above my thighs. Yeah, I don't like to accentuate that part of my body just because I don't like to create, that silhouette. So I'm not as, upset or concerned about the length of it on me. The sleeves I did make longer than the pattern. So back to the pattern about measurements. If you are using the English PDF pattern and you like to follow inches, the inches are incorrect in the pattern. So I know it happened on the sleeves, and I think on one of the body measurements, like when you're knitting from here to there. The centimeters are correct. I did cross-reference with the European translations or versions of the pattern, but on the English PDF, the inches are incorrect. And I did see someone on Ravelry comment on this, but I haven't noticed any sort of pattern updates released from PetiteKnit about that. So just beware of that. I feel like I should also post a comment on Ravelry about that too, but add that to my list. Other than that, I didn't find any other errors, at least not in the charts that I was following for my size, the size extra small. And as usual in PetiteKnit patterns, there's not very many detailed measurements given or a schematic. The only measurements given in the pattern, like explicitly, are bust circumference, body length, and then kind of in a way also sleeve length. But again, look at the centimeters, not the inches. My sleeves are about an inch longer than the pattern, and I never even talked about what kind of yarn I used. Sorry, the neighbor's cat is staring at me, and I'm gonna have to get up and let him in because he's just like staring. All right, we'll see how long Simba wants to stay. He usually just likes to come here to try to eat Tiberius's food. And sometimes Tiberius like chases them out, so I might have to open the door again. The yarn. So this is one of the few times that I actually use the suggested yarn from the pattern, and I use Sandnes Garn Pure Gynt. This is the Tweed Tutti Frutti Marzipan colorway, and it's I'll show you the swatch, that's easier. You can see that it has some blue, green, and red in there, and then the base color, I guess that's the marzipan part. I have a very like cool tone in my apartment because it's kind of like very gray out, low light, and my apartment is all gray concrete walls, so it makes everything look a bit cooler. Yep, Simba's done. I have to get up again. All right, I can't promise that's the last interruption. Hopefully that edits out, or I can make that smooth transition. So the suggested amount of yarn is 600 grams or 12 skeins of this yarn, which comes in 50 gram skeins. That's what I purchased. I usually kind of avoid buying Sandnes yarn if I can because it is a little bit pricey. It's not hand-dyed yarn pricey. But it is up there for commercial yarn. But I happen to be lucky enough to buy it on sale from Galt House of Yarn, which is a shop on the East Coast. I don't know if you can hear that. Tiberius is attacking my Christmas tree. And it was back in late spring, maybe summer, where whatever month like Norwegian Independence Day or Independence Month is, because that was happening, the shop was having a sale on Sandnes Garn yarn. So that's why I took the plunge and bought a sweater's quantity worth of this yarn. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have purchased it. I originally was going to use some Cascade 220 yarn, but decided not to use that color, but probably would have bought Cascade to make this. Anyways, so I was very happy because this is kind of a relatively new color for Pure Gynt, and I thought this would be like just a really nice yarn to use for this sweater. So in hindsight, I kind of feel like maybe I would have or should have made one size up because of like mine came out a little bit smaller. Maybe it's just my knitting gauge. But anyways, I had enough yarn. I actually have a full skein left, minus 2 grams that I needed to do the bind off of the sweater. And it just kind of shows the difference of kind of knitting tension or how much yarn is actually in a skein, because one sleeve used exactly 2 skeins, whereas the other sleeve used 2 skeins plus 2 grams from another skein. So that was interesting, but I mean very close. Nothing to be really upset about. So if you are making size extra small, you definitely have enough yarn that you can lengthen the sleeves, and I probably could go back and lengthen the body if I wanted to. And the amount I can lengthen the body is probably a good, like, I would say 2 to 3 inches from what I recall where my like yarn joins are in the body. But yeah, that is my Moby sweater. So kind of closing thoughts on that. The overall experience with the yarn was very nice. I've never used this yarn before. I don't even think I've used Norwegian wool before. I would say that it is a bit more rustic feeling than Cascade 220. Tiberius. And I actually had a better knitting experience with my Moby versus Darcy's Moby. So Darcy's Moby sweater was knit up using yarn from We Are Knitters, the baby alpaca or the 100% alpaca yarn, held with a strand of Touch Me Mohair, and that's actually a mohair alpaca blend. And I found the alpaca quite slippery, even though I used bamboo needles, the same needles I used on my Moby sweater. And so my fingers or my hands were kind of constantly doing kind of micro adjustments for the slipperiness of that yarn, which resulted in me kind of reaching fatigue sooner and having to take more breaks with that, even though it was a child-sized garment. But for this garment, maybe, you know, a year has passed, maybe my hands are just better knitting-wise, but my fingers weren't doing those same kind of micro adjustments because this yarn wasn't as slippery. And so I didn't get the same fatigue as I thought I would. So I was able to knit, you know, longer periods on this sweater than I thought, which was kind of nice actually. So that's always like a bonus about when you choose something that's a little bit more rustic, less slippery. It's actually turns out to be better for my hands. All right, so I said that, you know, it's only been 2 weeks, but it's been a productive 2 weeks of knitting, and I have 3 more finished objects to share with you guys, but they're small. They're winter accessories, and I found myself not wanting to work on any of the projects that I said I would in terms of garments. So my late summer wrap and the cocktail cardigan, yes, I would like to have them in my wardrobe, but I guess not immediately. And I tried to work on my late summer wrap. Psst, Tiberius. Oh, whatever, you're just going to hear a cat playing with ornaments in the background, if you can. But maybe it's the black yarn, I don't know, but it wasn't making me happy. So I did cast on the Oslo Hat with the Superglo Fiber yarn. And here it is. You'll know all about this if you follow me on Instagram. This is a strand of the sock base from Superglo Fiber. It is in the color Sapphire. And then a strand of her Suri in the color Royale. So it's like put together. It's kind of like a DK weight. Here, I'll put on the hat. So my hat does not fit me like how the hat looks in the like the sample on the pattern, but I went kind of down this road and explained a bit of this in my stories. So I have a smaller adult head circumference rise, but I also, in terms of the distance from, say, like my ear to the top of my head, it's kind of short. So if I do want to make a hat that fits like snug this way, I really have to shorten hat patterns. But, oh shoot. Hello. 'Tis the season for deliveries. Okay, Tiberius is joining us now. So when I made my second Oslo hat, I tried to kind of compensate for the extra height that I had in this one, also from blocking. It stretched quite a bit. But when I did that with this hat, and I did make it kind of like fit my head, it looked very strange on me. So I have just kind of accepted and like recognized that I need hats that are kind of taller to help proportionally like balance out my head, because I have a, not a long face, but longish face, and I need the height here so it doesn't look like part of my head got chopped off or something, or it's like squished. So even though when I finished this hat, I was like, oh, I don't know if I like it. I actually like it a lot more, especially after wearing it. And it is comfy and it's very warm. I gotta take that off now, especially to wear inside. But yeah, I do really like that one. And because that one stretched out, well, I don't want to say stretched out, but it grew quite a bit with blocking. That was also the reason why the hat seemed so short too, because I thought this yarn would grow a lot, which it didn't really, actually. So this second Oslo hat is knit using Drops Fabel yarn, held double because it's a sock yarn. It does have nylon in it as well, so does that Superglo fiber yarn. And I did have to frog back, so the brim of the hat, it's 2 layers of fabric and then you fold it up. So I had to frog back to before the fold because I felt like I needed to increase the height of this section here. So I did have to frog back quite a bit, but I had enough yarn left over to do so. And because I was kind of impatient and just didn't really care, I did not wash the frogged yarn before using it. So you can kind of see it even after blocking, but the frogged yarn really is just a little bit on the bottom of the fold and then in this section of the hat, and then the top of the hat is actually all fresh, like new, non-frogged yarn. So it doesn't bother me. I don't really care. So this one, because the blue one ended up being a bit large and a bit too loose. So that one was the size like junior woman. So I cast on the baby size. I think there's only 4 sizes of this hat, right? Or 5. But anyways, I cast on the smallest hat size, which I think it is baby. I didn't gauge swatch, so is this actually baby diameter? Like, it very well could be. Yeah, I do have a small head. Me and Darcy we can share hats. Oh, like, she can wear my hats, but I can't necessarily wear her hats. Yeah, oh, now the leaf blower is going. But anyways, this is how it is. Just a nice neutral color to add to my hat collection of 3 hats now. I went from having only a single knit hat, which I knit myself back in 2021, and for whatever reason didn't knit myself another hat because I was just happy with one hat. Yes, I live in Canada, but I don't live in the coldest part of Canada, and I actually don't wear a toque that often unless I'm going to be outside for prolonged periods in the evening, which I guess doesn't happen all too often. I also have a lot of hair, so that also helps with warmth. But yeah, I like how this one fits. This one fits a little bit more snug around my head, so it does kind of stay in place a little better. And yeah, so that's 2 hats that I've made. Wow, those really block out, affect your hearing hats. That's one of my things too, like when I wear hats, I get kind of annoyed when I can't hear things as well, and I find I start walking around like this to open up my hat, but that's a me thing. I don't know if other people do that. I feel like I'm getting older and my hearing is just not as good either. I don't know. I'm not that old. No, I'm not. So my next finished object, going back to using bright yarn, like that blue yarn actually was a nice, happy color. And I think a lot of people did say that it looks good on me, and thank you. Yeah, I agree now. So rolling with knitting what was making me feel happy, visually and tactile, I decided to make some mittens. And I have never knit myself mittens. I have crocheted myself mittens with some chunky yarn. I have knit fingerless gloves or fingerless mitts, but for whatever reason never done mittens. And then it's another reason, or the same logic behind why I don't have so many hats, because usually my hands can be in my pockets, or now because I'm with Darcy, I need my hands free for things like parenting, wiping her face, getting her food out. I use my hands a lot. But the last weekend we went skating together, indoor rink, and the gloves that I brought with me, they're nice gloves. They're just some gloves I bought from Aritzia, and they're a cashmere wool blend. Very lovely gloves. And I pulled them out and put them on, and the whole, this portion of one glove was just covered in holes. it was all holes, and I guess it's been attacked by some moths in my my place. Like, yes, we do get moths here. It's sad. And I thought about maybe I could mend them, but then I was like, no, it's really fine weight yarn. I don't want to do that. And if I did try to do that, it'd probably look really janky, like not even like the cool visible mending. I don't think I could do that. So mittens. So I cast on that day, and I think I cast off the following night. So I think these took me 2 days, which is, that is worsted weight. So this is the Let's Get Worsted base from Black Cat Custom Yarn. And you might recognize the colorway. It's the same colorway as my vellum tee that I made to wear for Flock Fiber Festival. The color is now called Luxe Clara, but back when I purchased this in 2022, it was called Light Bright, and you can kind of understand why they changed their name. I used the pattern from Tin Can Knits called the World's Simplest Mittens, which is perfect. It's a free pattern. I just wanted simple mittens. I didn't really care like how the top closes, or I just wanted something that was going to be easy. This is nice. It's superwash yarn, so I can throw them in the wash. These are mittens like I'd wear skating with Darcy, or like they might get food on them, and that is okay. So yeah, followed the instructions for worsted weight, adult small for these mittens. Again, did not gauge swatch, just went for it and adjusted accordingly. So I think my row gauge is larger than the pattern gauge, so I didn't do as many rows, but in terms of like measurements, I think they're about the same. I didn't actually measure. It doesn't matter if it's my hand. That's good enough, right? I was worried that the cuff, the ribbing portion, was going to be too snug, because I also did not think at the time to do a stretchy cast on. I just did a long tail cast on. But it does, like I can get my hand in it, but you can see there's a bit of a difference between the width of my hand and my wrist. I have small wrists. I think when I wear bracelets, they're 6 inches, I believe. Anyways, the ribbing does fit nicely on my hand, and I do like that it is kind of smaller. I have not like washed or blocked these. I'm not going to bother because they're mints. Maybe I should wash them. I don't know. Like, how dirty is yarn? I don't even want to think about that right now. Should I get the other one on so you can see? Ooh. But here we go. I think I made my cuffs a little bit longer than what the pattern said, because I wanted something that was definitely gonna be long enough. Like, even though it goes under a jacket sleeve, I didn't want them to be, I didn't want any chance of like air, cold air hitting that part of my wrist. But here they are. I think I made them slightly too short, but I figured if I do wash them, I could like block the length a little bit, because I already bound off and had woven in the end for this one, that I was like, well, I have to make the next one the same, because that would be weird if he had mittens that were not the same size, right? But there they are. Yeah, so I had only one skein of this yarn from Black Cat Custom Yarn, because originally I purchased it because I thought I was going to do a gift knit with it and make a hat, but I ended up using different yarn for that gift knit. So then this skein just sat in my stash for a while, and then according to the pattern, like one skein was definitely enough for a pair of mittens, but I didn't think, like based on the yardage for a pair for a toddler, it didn't look like I was going to have enough for both. But the idea came up because as I was working on my mittens, Darcy kept looking at the yarn and she would say, I want colorful mittens. Are you going to make me colorful mittens? So I was like, well, if I have enough yarn left over, I will. And it looks like I do, because I've already knit one for Darcy. Again, like these things are very quick. I was thinking with the Oslo hats as well. It's like I've got a time machine knitting these accessories, because the first Oslo hat, the blue one, I knit in 3 days. The second Oslo hat I did in 2 days. I don't know. I'm not an excessively fast knitter, but in the round on 16-inch circulars, just stockinette, like 3.5 millimeter needles. Like what? Needers? Wow. Like I can speak. And so I've already cast on the second mitten for Darcy, and I still have like a pretty good amount of yarn left. So yeah, I might even have leftover yarn. Like I don't think I'll be playing yarn chicken. So what I usually do when I have leftover yarn is I just wind it up into a little ball, and then Darcy and my cat get to play with it. And then if it gets really gross from them playing with it, then yes, it does just get thrown away. Sorry. Because I don't keep a lot of like tiny little scraps. I don't do a lot of color work knitting, so I don't really have a need for it. And especially if it's superwash yarn, yeah. Sorry. I don't know why I'm apologizing. That's just the way it is. All right, so those are my finished objects, and I cast on 2 new projects. So again, still riding the train of knit what feels good rather than knit what should be done kind of thing. So I cast on a new pullover. I have not progressed very much on this because I was working on these accessories because, bigger yarn, faster. I guess I just was really a product knitter the past 2 weeks. But I am using some yarn that I bought after Knit City because I didn't realize, so Elise from Sunday Fiber Co. kind of quietly launched a new yarn base called Aura Sport. It is 50% merino, sorry, everything's tangled together. 50% Suri alpaca, 50% merino wool, 3-ply sport weight. So 100 grams is 300 meters. I bought the color Rosewood because, yeah, why not? I really wanted to try this new base. And sport weight is kind of one of those weights that kind of on my would like to try list. Like sport weight held on its own, like not held with anything else. So I showed this yarn as acquisition, but here it is again. It's a really lovely color. So again, this is the color Rosewood. And it's coming out maybe slightly more orange on camera, but it's definitely like a bit terracotta vibes in my opinion, but I like that. And I have cast on the Moby Sweater from Moreca Knits. Please correct me if I've pronounced that designer's name incorrectly. The Moby Sweater is a saddle shoulder, shallow V-neck, oversized pullover. And I'm really leaning into the oversized part because I am knitting size 3, which is really not my usual thing to do, to not knit the smallest size. And I wish I could say it's because the pattern is size inclusive, like it has lots of sizes for the smaller bust ladies out there, myself included. And in case you're wondering, like, are you really that small? It's like, I wear a push-up bra. And that helps me fill out some of my clothing. So yeah, secrets out. Is that TMI? Anyways, that's just, yeah. Oh gosh, but yeah, so I have cast on and I've done the saddle portion is how you start, and now I am working on the back yoke. And it's been a little bit tricky working on this because you use larger needles than you typically would for a sport weight yarn. So the pattern uses 4mm needles, and the pattern does say, I think, light fingering plus lace. So maybe this sport weight's a little bit light, but I really like the drape. I did swatch for it and I really like the drape, and a little bit of the openness that you get with that needle and this yarn combination. You can see it has a little bit of, can you see? A little bit of the fluff. I don't know if you can see because maybe my hand's too similarly in color. But yeah, at first when I purchased this yarn, I thought that maybe this would be like a closer fitting body skimming garment because, you know, it feels so soft in my hand. But after my experience with my Elizabeth blouse, which has alpaca in it, and how like the prickliness or like how the alpaca fibers kind of irritate me, like texturally wise. So I decided that my husband's arriving home, I think. So I decided that I wanted this to actually be an oversized garment. Was it him? No one's coming in now. Maybe it was my neighbor putting my package in my apartment for me. Oh yeah, and Simba's back too. Jeez. Anyways, don't worry, we're very close with our neighbors, and I leave my door unlocked for these kind of reasons. But anyways, back to the Paul sweater. I decided that, you know, to decrease the risk of not being able to wear this on bare skin, to have this as more like an oversized garment, something that I could still fit in maybe a light layer underneath if I have to, essentially just reducing the number of contact points between the fabric and my body. But I'm hoping it's not as prickly as my Elizabeth blouse. But yeah, so this one doesn't really have my attention right now because of the 3 accessories that I just completed. And then just last night, I cast on another project because after knitting up Darcy's mitten, I really felt like I really just want to work with worsted weight yarn now. So I finally, if you've been watching me for a while, I have finally cast on the Haley sweater, which is a pattern out of this Sandnes Garn booklet. And I'll show you the picture of it, if I can find the page. And it is, there we go. It's an all over textured, oversized sweater. Again, who am I? I'm making oversized things. I said my style was wearing things with less positive ease, but here I am introducing some oversized things into my wardrobe. And that is something that I think is, I'm going through like a different mom phase now. So part of the reason why I avoided really oversized garments because of how I interact with Darcy day to day, like picking her up and all that. That would just, when I would wear an oversized sweater, for example, I just felt like all the fabric would be pulling, and like the way she would sit on me and like it gets stuck on her body or anything. So, you know, more closer fitting clothing didn't put me in those kind of situations. But now that Darcy is 3, she's like a lot more independent. I'm not carrying her around as much. I feel like I can, you know, introduce some more oversized garments, you know, bring them back into my wardrobe. So I have finally cast this on. I'm using Cascade 220, like the regular non-superwash one in the color Camel, which I originally had purchased for making a Moby sweater, but then decided I didn't want my Moby sweater in this color. But just like a golden, as you would, for me anyways, as expect for a camel, as something that's called Camel. This is what I would expect, kind of like a tan. And I think something with kind of yellow golden tones is good for my skin tone because that's like, I have golden undertones as well. So yeah, I finally cast this on, and it was like a lot smoother than I thought. The first time, okay, so this is the thing about knitting out of a booklet like this. So one, these patterns tend to not have a whole lot of hand holding or a lot of extra details like you would in, say, like indie patterns, because they are limited on space in a booklet. They, can't, keep writing till the cows come home kind of thing. So there's really just like, I don't want to say bare minimum, but it kind of seems that way for this pattern. It does have, instructions for, this abbreviation means this. This is how you do the make one right from the wrong side, from the right side kind of thing, German short rows. So it has like what you need, but it doesn't have further explanations than that. So I would say this pattern is not for a beginner. But if you're adventurous and you don't mind Googling some of these techniques and just like sitting and looking at this pattern for a little bit longer and like have the patience for that, then yeah, go ahead, have at it. But the way that it was written, you start with the back, you do the back yoke, and I just literally could not wrap my head around the German short row instructions or like how to start this sweater. And I was like, what can't I get? And it does have charts, and I'm looking at the charts and I'm looking at my work, and I realized that you have these edge stitches. So there are 3 stitches on either end that are not included in the chart, because they are actually the stitches that become this kind of like line that you see on the, oh, that's gonna be hard to see in this picture, but if you can see that, how the drop shoulder is created. And so that was my like big hang up. I was like, oh, this edge stitch plus this like 2 stitches, not part of the chart. It's for creating that line, which was where you will later go back and pick up the stitches for the fronts off of. So once I figured that out, then it was like, okay, I get it. I'm going to put markers on each end so I know that that's not the chart, that I have to do kind of something else. So these 3 stitches on the end, you are doing short rows. You start with short rows and then you work this chart. And so you kind of have, your chart instructions, and then you have these short row instructions for those 3 stitches. So once I figured that out, it was fine. But in case you're struggling, like, you're not alone. It confused me a bit too. And then the nice thing about this pattern, because I haven't quite decided if I wanted it size 1 or size 2, you don't really need to decide until you are about like 86 rows in. Wait, not 86 rows, sorry, 43 rows in, because the instructions for all 4 sizes are the same for that many rows. Sorry, Simba, do you want to go home? I know your parents keep sending you here, but I think part of the reason why Simba keeps showing up is that they are also dog sitting, and I don't think Simba likes the dog very much. But it's a small dog. It's a little Pomeranian, and it's an old Pomeranian. I think it's about 8 years old, which actually isn't that old for a Pomeranian, but yeah, the cats have been here a little bit more than usual. Usually they like to play at Simba's, but anyways, so yes, this Haley sweater, I'm really gung-ho about it right now, but I don't know if I'm going to stop and I'll get the urge to go back to my Paul sweater. Not sure. Man, how long have I been talking for? This is going to be a long episode, isn't it? Oh, not too bad. And then I got some things to cut out. Sorry, thinking out loud. Okay, so those are the only whips that I wanted to share with you guys. The last thing that I want to do today is I got some yarn. I know I said I was on a break from buying yarn, but I always knew that I was going to purchase some yarn from Holst Garn for their Black Friday sale. And I have purchased yarn for, I think, what's going to be like my big 2024 project. And I haven't actually opened the yarn package yet, so we're going to open it together. think my hair or fluff. Oh, fluff. So I'm not going to do that novice thing and share my address on screen like I did once in my videos. I was like, here's the package, and also like my address is there. Thank you for the kind viewer who messaged me about that. That was just something like, duh, like don't do that. But thank you, I appreciate that. But yes, so this is my package from Holst Garn. The reason why I wanted to kind of wait and purchase directly from Holst Garn, well, one, Black Friday sale. It makes it a lot less expensive, especially for the quantity of yarn that I was going, or that I've purchased. So Holst Garn is available to me locally at West Coast Wools, which is a yarn shop on West 4th here in Vancouver. And a ball of Holst Garn. Okay, Simba's gonna try. He's driving me crazy. I gotta get him out. All right, so back to Holst Garn. A ball of Holst Garn Supersoft goes for $9.50 at West Coast Wools, which compared to other yarns, say like Sunday from Sandnes Garn, it's less expensive than Sandnes Garn yarn. And it's quite nice, actually. I've worked with it before. It's fingering weight yarn. It's 50% merino, 50% other wool. And at first you look at it and it might feel a little rough to you. It looks like a little bit skinny or light for fingering, but it really has a lovely bloom. It really like expands after, and it does get quite soft. And I've used it on something for Darcy. I held it double for a Hannah cardigan when I test knit that one. And Darcy doesn't complain about it. I'm very lucky that Darcy does not have any sort of wool or fiber sensitivities, and she actually says everything is very soft, and yeah, so it's really great. But the amount of yarn that I wanted to purchase, it was gonna cost me just over like $200, including all the taxes. And so what I am looking to cast on next year is the Anemone Sweater from Knitting for Olive. Now, yes, I could have purchased directly from Knitting for Olive, but I don't want to put mohair in this one. This is a colorwork sweater, and I just wanted wool. And I didn't want to get the Knitting for Olive merino because I felt like it's just a little bit too smooth. And so I thought about Holst Garn because it has, it's not a super rustic yarn. It's no like Jameson of Shetland yarn kind of thing. I think that's a very popular yarn to use for color work. But it has, a nice bloom to it. And I thought, well, that's going to help with the color work. So let's go ahead and open this package, and I'll talk more a little bit about the pricing of this. So bear with me a moment. I got to carefully cut into this because I don't want to cut into the yarn. I'm the slowest at opening packages. I'm not doing this for dramatic effect. Oh, I just got a hit of wool scent. I just tell you something really random. If you play tennis, so I played on the tennis team when I was in high school, and we used to fight over who got to open a new tube of tennis balls, because we used to just like, it opens up like a can, and you like open it up and like inhale the tennis ball scent. I don't know if I'm not a crazy person, okay? That's just one of those like really satisfying scents for whatever reason, but anyways, you guys are getting a real shot of my weirdo-ness. Oh, exciting. Okay, let's pull out this yarn. Packed with Love by Caroline. Thank you, Caroline. Okay, so I have here, sorry if don't like that sound. I have decided for this sweater, I can't remember how many total rows of flowers there are in the motif, but based on the size that I want to knit, I could have a color appear twice. So I have five colors. I have 5 colors of flowers. Wow. And I've decided to go a little bit not primary. I don't know what you would call this color palette. Is that really what color they look like? Oh, that one doesn't look as red as I thought. Hopefully that still works. This is what happens when you shop by pictures online. Okay, so I have here a cone for my main color. Decided to just go with a cone. So a cone, here it is. Oh, they don't actually, this is just a packing list. Okay, so with the Black Friday pricing, so you can buy a cone, order cones from Wet Coast Wools, but it will cost you about $60, a little bit more with tax. This cone was $29 US, which I don't know what that is in Canadian, but less expensive than ordering through Wet Coast Wools. So this is my main color. It's color Oatmeal, just like regular oatmeal. And then my leaves, Tiberius can smell the wool. He's like, hey buddy. So my leaves are going to be this color, which happens to be called clover leaf. There we go. So all the flowers have the same leaves, like same green. And then I'm doing a little bit of like a gradient of yellow, orange, red, and like 2 different blues. So the blues look kind of similar, so hopefully it does show up a bit different in the sweater. I may have to... No, I think that'll be different enough, hey? So I have here Glacier and Sapphire. You know what, on camera you can see a difference. Hopefully that's like clear enough in the sweater. So those are my blues, so I'll have a couple rows of blues. So this is Ember, which is kind of like the red I've chosen. And then like my orange, this is Goldcrest. Oh, those look good. Yeah, I can see enough contrast on camera. Okay. And the last color is called Maize, as in like corn. M-A-I-Z-E. Ooh. Wow. These are slippery. I don't know why I can't hold these up. Here we go. Okay, yeah, those are coming out really lovely on camera. Now, I was just saying these are slippery. Can I hold the blues next to it as well? Oh, you know what? Pinch them like this. There we go. Okay, so there are all my flower colors. So, yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about my choices of blue, though. I feel like Glacier is not light enough, or Sapphire is not dark enough. We'll see after I swatch. Maybe it will look better when I swatch. But I also didn't want like high contrast for this sweater, so I was going a little bit retro coloring for this. I didn't want anything that seemed like too spring, but hopefully it doesn't seem too autumn as well. But anyways, I like these colors. How they look in a swatch, we will see next year. I'm just going to leave these kind of haphazardly here so that you don't hear any more like crinkling, because Maybe you don't like that. This is not an ASMR channel anyways. Interrupting your regular program with pricing for the Holst Garn yarn, because I realized I forgot to totally talk about that, and I said I would, so I am back to do that. So as I said, if you are in Vancouver or shopping from West Coast Wools, not to say like you can't buy the yarn from there. Like, I do believe in shopping locally, but with this Black Friday sale specifically, budget-wise, it just makes sense for me to order from Holst Garn directly. Otherwise, I do shop at West Coast Wools. I don't shop directly from Holst Garn outside of this Black Friday sale. Anyways, shop local when you can, but I also understand, like, financially, like, you gotta do what you gotta do. So these little guys go for $9.50 at West Coast Wools, and I got them at the price of $2.62 US each, which roughly in Canadian, like, our dollar is usually not very good. So what could that be? Like $3.50? That's without any taxes. So let's add, we would have 5% tax here, right? $3.75 if we want to be rounding up. Sure. So, but less than $4 each for these. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it's $52 worth of these for 14 of these. And then the cone I got for the price of $22.45 US, which, if we want to estimate that in Canadian, $30.50, if you want to add some tax, sure. $32. So what did I say? 32 plus 52? $84. Yeah, that's about right, based on my Visa statement. So $84, including 5% tax, which I don't know if I was charged 5% tax from Holst Garn, but I'm just trying to make this Canadian pricing work. Versus if I were to buy this at West Coast Wools, I said it was just over $200. Even if I add in my shipping cost, sorry, my cat's being a cat. My cost was just over $100, including the shipping. It was like $110 or something like that. So I saved almost 50%, almost 50% of the cost by ordering directly from Holst Garn for a full sweater quantity colorwork sweater. But yeah, that's the pricing that I paid. Back to the regular program. But yeah, that is everything I wanted to share and chat about today. I said before that I was only planning one video this month, which is this podcast episode, and same story. I don't plan on sitting down again this month to do any more recordings because I'm going to enjoy the holidays with my family. My husband will hopefully be in holiday mode for starting next week. So then he will be kind of home during the day, which is going to be nice. Get some help, parenting with Darcy, but also just hanging out as a family. And then that also means nothing for early January, because in order to do that, I'd have to sit down at the end of December. And again, not planning to. I do like creating content, but I don't need to force myself, and this is just a really lovely time to have family time. So I will be back in January. Don't know when, maybe the second week. We will see how it goes, because Darcy does not have school the first week of January. But yeah, what is coming next year? Short term, I will have the Everything I Knit in 2023 video. And I do have another comparison video that is kind of drafted up, ready to go. And something just totally new that I've been kind of slowly working away, and I think it will be ready to launch next month, is my very own website. So I say that kind of nervously, hey. It's not super fancy, and I've kind of just labeled it as a virtual copy of my knitting journal. So it's going to have very similar details to Ravelry. So if you access Ravelry, some of it won't be new to you. But if you don't have access to Ravelry, then you will be able to access all of my project details. So, you know, what size, the pattern, links to the pattern, my thoughts about the pattern, my thoughts about the yarn, that kind of stuff is going to be new that I don't put on Ravelry. It's going to appear like blog posts, but I'm not going to be writing blogs. It's just going to be posts about my projects. I have gone back and done a few of my past projects. I don't know how far back I'm going to go, and I'm not going to wait till I've got, you know, everything uploaded before I launch the website. So like I need to do a page for my Moby Sweater, I just realized. So, you know, what's on there now, and then I'll be working on adding finished objects as they get finished. And some past projects, they're like the Oslo hats. Like I don't even know if I'll put those on the website, because it's not like I have too much extra or significant to say about those projects, but I might just put more pictures of them on there. But yeah, it's not going to be selling anything on there. My battery is going to die soon, so I got to close it off here. But anyways, happy holidays to everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, guys. I will see you next year. So until then, happy knitting. Bye.